What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode, we are diving back into the final days of the One-Year War as we cover Volume 3 of the plot to assassinate Gihren. Last time, Leo escaped jail. We learned more about the divide between Gihren and Cecilia, and Darcia also explained Giren's ties to Side 6 and the Cyclops team. This time, Leo goes to visit his grandfather, and we learn about Reagan Leaf's past. So let's get into this. Phileas Dream is looking over the Weiss Rose, or White Rose, labeled Goof Custom. Back at the cafe, Leo is still talking with his contact, Reinhardt. She wants to know about a situation regarding his first case with the Department of Public Safety. Leo goes to explain what it is like being in the colonies these days. There is a lack of diversification of thought. He goes to explain it doesn't matter how great something is for a nation. If the people aren't able to make that choice for themselves, all goodwill really won't help. Leo says that certainly the colonies have an abundance of media, but it is clear that they are pigeonholed into a state-approved way of thinking these days. He says that people like Reinhardt and the Underground are allowing a diversification of thought. It is clear that Leo stumbled onto this underground network during his investigation and decided to help them rather than expose them. Meanwhile, Elsie is running errands for Leo. She is mad that he is making her do this for him. She gets a call about keeping Leo out of jail and letting him continue his investigation. She is working on the side of Valkyrie. Valkyrie is continuing with their final mission. After the destruction of the Zabi family, Valkyrie plans on forming a provisional government. It is then that all the members will finally meet in person. At the Capital Defense Battalion building, Slesser is informing his men of the situation regarding the fact that Castle Rim Daikun is still alive. He wants to put his faith into the young Daikun member. His battalion sides with him. There are even retired civilians there willing to help out. December 28th, UC 0079. At the same time, Rigel von Moore is informed of Slesser's intent. They realize that things are going down on the 31st. Everyone seems to be positioning themselves to be in the best place during that day. Giren's guard members, Gaius Zamella and Vanessa Vermillion, are overlooking the delivery of the new Galbaldy Alpha. The MS-17 Galbaldy Alpha is quite possibly the Principality of Xion's last mobile suit. It was intended to be the successor to the Gihren, but once the Gelgoog became the standard towards the end of the war, it started using Gelgoog parts. After the fall of the Principality of Xion, EFF took all of Xion's data and eventually made the Galbaldy Beta. For more information on that mobile suit, check out our Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam videos. Its beam rifle is the same as the Gelgoog. It also has a beam saber and a beam shield, as well as a special knuckle shield. This is a shield that rests on the forearm of the unit and has 2 additional spikes on the knuckles. Leo and Elsie head to the Climate Administration Bureau. Elsie wonders why they are there. Leo explains that he smelled something similar to RDX, which is the successor of TNT used mainly for military purposes. Leo was assigned to this case after the 7th explosion went off. The Climate Administration has sensors all throughout the colony collecting data on the artificial environment. He has to take the environmental data and cross-examine it with the data that he has on the explosion. This will determine if the military was involved in these explosions. Lance meets with Slesser. Their plan is good to go. Slesser tells Lance that if Cassaval is alive, then what Jim Baral told him must be true, that Degwin planned Xion's murder. Slesser says that he isn't even sure if Gihren is in Zoom City or if he is on a Pawaku. Leo wonders how one would get weapons like a bomb into the colony. It is near impossible for a normal citizen to accomplish this. He also notes that there are several points in the city that are uninhabited. It is very possible for a mobile suit to do damage in these areas. He also notes that physics on the colony work differently than that on Earth. It would definitely require precision that only would come from knowing the climate data. The military has an access code that works with the climate system. It is easy to access and something that the people would most likely overlook. Leo looks at the log file. He sees that the name Harist has accessed the file. Meanwhile, the writer or artist failed at translating his own names properly. He continues looking to see that Lance accessed these files recently as well. Leo is confused about what is going on. He looks into the administration's security system. He finds that everything has been erased, except for one image file. It is fragmented, but it looks like an explosion. In Phileas's quarters, he gets a video message from Eric Mansfield. Eric is on his way to avow a coup. He tells Phileas that he is proud of him and the team for everything they have been through. Leo is going through data on his phone. He wonders why the chief gave him a whole 2 hours instead of arresting him immediately. It is clear there was something that the chief wanted Leo to see. He sees a pic of his grandfather. That is when he finally makes the call and tries to get in contact with him. Back at Command HQ, Cecilia is meeting with Rigel von Moore and some other men. Rigel tells Cecilia of Slessor's attempt to make a move on the 31st. She leaves it in Rigel's hands to handle the situation. Cecilia casually mentions that Gihren is no longer on Side 3. This casual mention of Gihren's location is very important. As Rigel now knows the location of Gihren, he informs Reagan Leaf and the Valkyrie team. Meanwhile, Elsie is nervous. She makes a call. She needs to talk to Cecilia regarding Leo immediately. December 29th, UC-0079, Side 3, Rosante Colony. Leo is mad that he spent an entire day trying to find his grandfather's location. Elsie can sense that something is wrong with him, but it isn't his grandpa or Lance that is on his mind. He says he will tell Elsie when the time comes. They finally find the Hoth Fieseler estate. Leo meets with Hoth. He asks his grandfather about Reagan Leaf. Hoth says that he is Reagan Leaf, or at least he used to be. It isn't a specific person, but a codename given to carry out covert operations for the Zabi family. The year was UC-0050. Degwin, Hoth, and a few others created an underground railroad of the sorts and steals resources from the moon. The moon had all the resources needed for the colonies to remain independent from EFF. Not only that, but Degwin and his covert group sent whispers throughout the colonies, giving everyone just a slight push they need towards revolution. It shows that even though Degwin may have used Zeon Zoom Daikum and even rode off the coattails of his ideas of controlism, he still fought hard in the early years to create an autonomous zone for Muzno. Over time, this network grew to involve EFF members and other various high-ranking members. Many fled to Side 3, and it became the colony of industry providing for other colonies. Hoth says this is as far as he has gone with the name Reagan Leaf. He says that the Syndicate and Reagan Leaf is most certainly used to this day. He says that no matter what, Reagan Leaf will not betray the Zabi family. Leo tells his grandfather that the data says otherwise, and points to Reagan Leaf's involvement with Sasuro Zabi. Hoth then goes into the antagonizing nature between Gihren and Sasuro. Had Sasuro not been assassinated, he and Gihren would destroy the colonies from the inside, even before becoming a principality. Essentially, what Hoth is getting at in this moment is that the Zabi family knew this, and because they knew this, they made a choice. Who dies, Gihren or Sasuro? And of course, we know they chose Sasuro. He goes on to say that this isn't betraying the Zabi family, but rather helping the family. Hoth wonders why he left the family and tells him it is because he treated his parents with disrespect. December 30th, UC-0079. Leo and Elsie are on a shuttle making their way back to Zoom City. Leo plans on visiting Lance in the Officers Club later in the day. Elsie wants him to be careful considering he might be a part of Valkyrie. As they are talking, the shuttle veers off course. The pilot informs the passengers that the military has diverted their course. They both look out to see the once Maharu colony converted into the colony laser. This causes Leo to flash back to a time when he was once on Earth and still in the military. He is in Australia, looking at the remains of what was once Sydney. Leo begins shaking Elsie like a baby and starts yelling, "What is going on?" He apologizes and gets some rest. Later, Elsie gives a briefing on Leo to Cecilia. She thinks that he will be useful to them. She tells her about Slessor's plan to hold his revolt during the ceremony. Cecilia asks if Elsie is sure that her personal feelings aren't getting in the way. She tells Elsie to let him die in dire situations moving forward and not to help him out. In Zoom City, the battalion begins closing down the streets and preparing for the event. Vanessa is dealing with a battalion officer. Gihren's guard isn't a part of the battalion and can break rank, but the platoon leader isn't having any of it. Vanessa talks to Gaius. She doesn't understand how there is an assassination attempt on Gihren when he isn't even here. She thinks that the battalion is planning something else besides just the already known rebellion. Back at the Officers Club, Leo meets with Lance. He doesn't waste any time. He pulls out the picture he found on the Climate Administration's security database. Lance said that he left that for Leo specifically, but never thought that he would find it so fast. Suddenly, Slessor comes in and introduces himself. Leo just comes out and asks about Reagan Leaf and why David Schiller didn't arrest him the night he disappeared. Slessor says that he told Schiller just who has the most to gain. At the beginning of the war, Gihren needed to strengthen his forces. Now, at the end of the war, Zeon has been driven from Earth and Solomon is lost. Essentially, they are in the same position they were a year ago. The only difference is that this time, they plan on taking out Slessor and the battalion in the process. This is because their intended goal. He tells Leo that the battalion's motto is the Shield of Zeon. They are not there just to protect Zeon and the capital, but rather the will of Zeon, which lived inside Zeon Zum Daikum. Now that he believes that Casseval is the answer, Command HQ won't allow it. The clock strikes midnight. Slessor must take his leave. Leo tries to ask him what they plan on doing today, but he has already left the room. December 31st. UC 0079. An explosion happens within Zoom City. A few Higans are patrolling a neighborhood. The MS-12 Higan is a prototype artillery mobile suit. This unit is a two-seater, one pilot and one gunner. This unit has a 180mm recoilless cannon attached to the top of its head. It also has a 120mm 4-barrel machine gun mounted on its forearm. The Higans spot that the explosion came from the Climate Administration. Suddenly, the Higans are destroyed. It is the Shield of Zeon making their attack. Everyone assumed that they were going to attack in the daytime during the ceremony, but they didn't waste any time and made their attack at the strike of midnight. Back at the officers' club, Lance makes his leave. Lance says that even though he was faster than he thought, he is still too slow. A team goes in to intercept the battalion. They are on foot, but they are able to organize to strategically take out a mobile suit. Slessor makes his way back to the battalion HQ. Everything seems to be going according to plan. But Slessor wants to start moving outside of Side 3. He wants to start making a move on the colony laser. Back at Command HQ, all hell is breaking loose. Rigel has divided the forces, so they are currently in a weakened state. Cecilia starts to realize what is going on. They were trying to figure out Giren's location. She realizes that if Gihren didn't go to a Bawaku, he wouldn't have divided his royal guard into two teams. Cecilia also knows that Mansfield's team wouldn't do anything. Rigel is clearly outed as a double agent. Cecilia asks why he is still even here after figuring out where Gihren is. He says that if he fled, Command HQ would suspect something. He attempts to get out one last Sig Zeon before getting shot in the face for treason. Cecilia mentions that this teasing nature is something that her mentor, David Schiller, would do. Meanwhile, on Side 6, Jean-Marie Socrates finally finds David Schiller. David mentions that if he is here, then Zoom City must be in chaos. That will do it for this episode. The plan is in motion and people are starting to make moves on the battlefield. The battalion is ready for treason. Valkyrie is ready for treason. Leo is technically committing treason. We got treason going on everywhere, folks. Next time, we will conclude the plot to assassinate Gihren. And I don't know if you know this, but Gihren dies in a Bawaku. I know, mind-blowing. So we will see how Side 3 handles the news. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember to be sure to keep track of your grandfather. Peace.